I am honored to be here today at the Pennsylvania Lithuanian Days, which is said to be the longest running annual ethnic festival anywhere in America. And I am talking with Mr. g.domalakes, who is leading this Lithuanian Day festival for decades.
Well, I've been organizing it and being the, I guess you would call it the leader, but probably the fall guy for the festival. I've been involved directly for about 20 years. My family's been involved for about 30 years. So, you know, I've been involved as a participant or a leader for about 30 some years. There were many, many Lithuanian immigrants to the United States beginning about in the 1870s, fleeing from the attempts at Russification, and that just reached a crescendo, really an avalanche just before World War II. And many of the Lithuanian priests who had been sent to serve them were concerned because, as I said in one of the little talks I give, America poses its own challenge. There was a potential for the loss of not only the Lithuanian language and culture, but religion too, because America was a Protestant country. So they brought this festival called Lithuanian Day on the Feast of the Assumption. And the Feast of the Assumption, of course, is a Catholic holiday, and it was August 15th. And so August 15th started in 1914, before the war started, and became a very, very popular holiday, not just for Lithuanians, because a lot of people took the day off to come to Lithuanian Day. Even the Irish and the Italians and the Germans, they declared themselves to be Lithuanian and took the day off too. After World War I, when Lithuania was reinstituted as a nation, Lithuanians, some emigrated back to Lithuania, but many of them stayed here because they liked it here, but they liked the Lithuanian culture, and now they had something to celebrate because the Lithuanian nation was something to be proud of again. Lithuanian Day sort of cemented itself into the local culture. It became a real part of this area, the Schuylkill County Hardcoal regions, and many, many people came from all around, Lithuanians and others, to Lakewood Park. It was an amusement park, and they had speakers and lots of other things. And it was really a great day for people to come, and there were many, many people, cars lined up on the highways to get in here.
Many trains would come every year full of Lithuanians here, yes?
Yes, trains would come from New York and Philadelphia. People would come down from Boston. It's part of the legend, although it's a true legend, that there were so many picnics. People would bring their picnic things to Lakewood because it had picnic tables and other things, and there were actually fights over the picnic tables. So people would come the night before and chain themselves to the picnic tables to reserve something for the family. That's actually true. I know it to be true. But it was a lot of fun. It was a great thing, and it continued for many, many years. One of the reasons is Schuylkill County has been documented by sociologists and everything to have the largest percentage of their population with Lithuanian ancestry, and it's been officially declared to be Little Lithuania. There are a lot of Lithuanians here. There are a lot of people who have Lithuanian ancestors, and there are more and more of them as everybody intermarries, and so we're continuing that tradition, trying to reach out to all those people and saying, this is a fun, important heritage that you're a part of.
What is going on here every year at Lakewood Park?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know what's going on. I just set it up and everybody runs around.
Yeah, but I mean, for a person who has never been there, let's say,
Sure.
What would you say, why should he or she come here?
It's a lot of fun, okay? There's a lot of joy, interesting things, fun foods, and whatever. So it's a fun thing to come. We've been blessed with some great weather, so that makes it even more fun right here in Lakewood, because this is a beautiful spot. But to be serious about it, you get some history, you get some awareness of what part not only Lithuania played, but really world history, world politics, how important the tenacity of the American Lithuanians were, not only in preserving their culture here in America, but supporting their Lithuanian brothers and sisters at home. Because before the World War I, when my grandparents came here, they had left Lithuania, but they had left relatives there, and they would send them things and support them when Lithuania was in the Russian Empire. Especially after World War II, with the communist takeover, there were many times, many caretaker things. People would take things back to their relatives or others, trying to encourage them, and there were a lot of encouraging books and things smuggled in. The history of that in Schuylkill County goes back really far. If I might digress for a moment, back in the 1870s, when they had the book smugglers who brought a lot of books published in Lithuanian and newspapers published in Lithuanian because they couldn't publish in Lithuania. Many of those things were published right here in Schuylkill County and made their way to Lithuania. But anyway, you learn that kind of history. You also sample a lot of the foods. Many of the interesting things here in Schuylkill County is some of the things that are regarded as ethnic foods. The borscht, the lapiene soup, the blinis, the bandukis and other things. They're just normal fare here. But many of the people from outside the area come here and learn about this stuff that they may have heard of all their lives. So that's one reason to come here. Also, the music is great. We have traditional Lithuanian music. We have traditional music from old Lithuania. We have modern pop music. And we have a number of things that give the whole, let's call it, breadth of the Lithuanian history. It goes back into medieval days, and not just lectures, but we have some of winged hussars from the Polish-Lithuanian cavalry. They have an encampment here, as do the partisans, who are military soldiers from reenacting the World War II and onward opposition by the Lithuanians against the Soviets. All this kind of things, and we have Pennsylvania National Guard, who is with a modern relationship with the Lithuanian military. They come up and give a display, and so it gives a whole panoply about what's happening in Lithuania and the relationship between Lithuania and America.
You have mentioned that your grandparents have immigrated from Lithuania to America. In some cases we meet people whose grandparents have immigrated from Lithuania, and some of them no longer care about their heritage. They say just we are American, and I don't know, we come from somewhere in Eastern Europe and such. But people like you care. So what motivates you actually to continue with these days and with your Lithuanian heritage?
I like history, and Lithuania has a fascinating history and has played a big part in history. And it's particularly irritating to me when they say, oh, Lithuania is part of Eastern Europe, or I don't really care, I'm an American. It's like, well, what do you mean that you're an American? As an American, you should be very, very much aware of people who have fought for the freedoms that you enjoy. People who have suffered without them, and suffered for many years, and just been stubborn and tenacious and willing to sacrifice a great deal to preserve their freedom and make it a reality. Lithuania was swallowed up in 1790s by the Russian Empire, and they remained Lithuanian. They remained culturally independent of the attempts to turn them into Russia and Russians. And they had revolutions and did all these things, and then they reinstituted their nationhood and culture after World War I, and then it was absorbed again. To be a real American, you've got to realize those people are fighting for what I have. And that's supposedly the right to be who I want to be, the right not to have people creeping in at me at night and whisking off my children and grandchildren to Siberia, simply because I'm doing something somebody doesn't like. That's why I think this stands out and is a lesson for people, and I try to promote that. Not beating them over the head, but trying to show that, look, the fight for freedom also carries with it the joy of recognizing when you have it. So that's one reason why I do it. The other reason, my family's been involved with not only Lithuanian Days, but the Lithuanian community for all my life, and many of them are still working very hard at it. Although it is becoming harder and harder because like everywhere, at least in America, the volunteer organizations are suffering from lack of volunteers. But that's sort of epidemic everywhere, and it's harder and harder to get people to volunteer for things. But we're going to, as they say, soldier on and keep it going and do it. And we've been very successful. We've been able to come to this lovely place, and the work by the Knights of Lithuania, the particular organization that sponsors this, has been pretty dedicated. So that's where we are.
So Lithuanian Days are continuing for well over 100 years by now, and as I understand, you have participated since your childhood.
Either as a participant, my family used to come out here and do it in the early 70s, a couple times in the later 70s. I sometimes was on stage they had a big giant ballroom here that was the Lithuanian Day thing, and somebody asked me to give a speech when I was like 20 some years old. I have no recollection of what I said, but I'm sure it was profound. Anyway, the bottom line was I've been doing that, and then I really became more involved in the 1990s, and then I really became the MC, that's the organizer and other things of Lithuanian Days in the early 2000s. There have been many, many other people, like my brother Larry, who was really instrumental, doing a lot of the nuts and bolts. And now a lot of my children do a lot of the nuts and bolts.
I'm very glad to hear that. But so over this century, how did Lithuanian Days change? So how was it before, let's say, before Second World War, and how was it at the time when you first came here, and how was it at the time when you started being an MC here?
First of all, I have no personal experience about what it was like before World War II. I am not that old. But basically the format originally was the same. What happened was you would have someone come in and do a long speech in Lithuanian, which was what people liked to hear, and they would speak to the Lithuanians and they would do different things. Usually then they would have a huge chorus. There were various churches that would have Lithuanian choirs, and they would come in and sing it. And then they would have the various dancers from the various places. Philadelphia had several dance groups. This area had some, and they would come to Lithuanian Days. And then it was really only a one-day affair. During the day, it was people at the amusement park, and then starting in the early evening, they would have a dinner, and the speakers and the dances, and then into the night they would have just a sort of a ballroom dance. Everybody would gather together. Eventually, when this park closed in the early 80s, and Lithuanian Days had to move, the format changed to different singers, the presentation of a Lithuanian dance troupe or two, some Lithuanian history, and it was kind of simple because what we started developing was the presentation of Lithuanian foods and sort of other Eastern European foods. So there were homemade pierogies and homemade bandukis and homemade all these other things, and they were being made. That's the kind of festival we had at the Schuylkill Mall. We had the center court of the mall for about 30 years until the mall closed. And we're very fortunate to find this place. It reopened, and so we're back here, and we're still doing some of the foods, but now we've opened it up to many more vendors, Lithuanian artifacts, foods, jewelry, all sorts of specialty things. People bring the tree cake. As you can tell, I'm not a Lithuanian speaker. Many people that come here do not speak Lithuania, so there are very few speeches in Lithuanian, although we try to sing the songs in Lithuanian again. It's changed because it's really oriented toward mostly an American audience that wants to learn about Lithuania, as opposed to a Lithuanian audience that wants to hear about the home country. So we still do a lot of Lithuanian foods, Lithuanian songs, Lithuanian culture and history, but it's really oriented to saying, look, being Lithuanian means something, and it's fun.
Indeed, so we have had a very nice 2 days here at the Lithuanian Days this year and last year as well. So those who have never been to Pennsylvania Lithuanian Days and live either in Pennsylvania or in surrounding states, I invite you to come here next August and visit Pennsylvania Lithuanian Days for yourself and be imbibed in the Lithuanian culture here. And while doing so, you may also visit many Lithuanian sites that exist in Schuylkill County and Pennsylvania core region in general. We have mapped all such sites on our destination Lithuanian America map of Lithuanian American heritage sites, so you can easily see each of dozens of Lithuanian cemeteries and churches and other places that exist in this area and learn more about Lithuanian history here.